Tonight, we are diving into 13 true backcountry accounts from people who walked into the American wilderness and returned carrying memories they still can't explain. These aren't campfire stories told for attention. These are the kinds of experiences people bury deep inside themselves for years, because saying them out loud makes them feel real again. If you're new here, subscribe now, because the deeper this series goes, the darker it gets. Turn the lights off, put your headphones on, and let's begin. My name is Darren Colquitt. I'm 41 years old, and for most of my life, I've trusted routine more than feelings. I work freight logistics out of Knoxville, Tennessee. My days are spreadsheets, shipping delays, angry phone calls, and stale coffee that tastes like burnt cardboard by noon. The kind of life where every hour feels exactly like the one before it. The mountains were the only thing that ever reset me. A few times a year, I'd disappear into the backcountry alone. No phone calls, no glowing screens, just cold air, dirt under my boots, and enough silence to remind me I'm still human. I've been doing solo overnight hikes since I was 19, and in all those years, nothing had ever truly frightened me. Until Caldwell Fork Trail. It was late October, cold enough for frost at sunrise, but not yet winter. I took Friday off work and planned a quiet 3-day trip along a stretch of trail I knew almost by memory. Same creek bend, same campsite, same route I'd walked 4 times before. That familiarity was the reason I chose it. I didn't want adventure. I wanted peace. The first day felt perfect. The trees burned orange in the evening light, the air smelled like wet leaves and pine, and the mountains carried that deep October silence that somehow feels alive instead of empty. I set camp near the creek, ate dinner, read beneath my headlamp, and slept harder than I had in months. Then, at 4:53 in the morning, I woke instantly. Not slowly, not groggy. 1 second asleep. The next completely alert. Like some buried instinct inside me had slammed awake before my mind caught up. I stayed motionless in my sleeping bag and listened. The creek flowed softly nearby. Wind drifted through the canopy. Everything sounded normal. Then I heard voices. Low, calm, casual. 2 people talking somewhere beyond the trees. Not shouting, not arguing. Just the soft rhythm of ordinary conversation drifting through the dark. I couldn't understand the words, only the cadence. One voice, then the other, back and forth, patient, unhurried. I unzipped the tent slowly and swept my headlamp across the clearing. Nothing. No firelight. No movement. No silhouettes between the trees. But the voices continued. Somewhere deeper in the forest. And what unsettled me wasn't the sound itself. It was how normal it sounded. As if 2 people were standing comfortably in the middle of nowhere at 5 in the morning, talking like they belonged there. The voices stopped abruptly around 5:15. Not fading away. Not walking off. Just gone. And suddenly the forest felt too quiet. I convinced myself it was another pair of hikers. Sound carries strangely in the mountains. I'd heard echoes bounce through hollows before. So I packed up and kept moving. A couple miles later, the trail dipped into wet black mud near a drainage crossing. That's where I found the footprints. 2 sets. Fresh. 1 heavy boot tread. 1 lighter trail runner pattern. Walking side by side in the exact direction I was heading. The edges were sharp. They'd passed recently. Maybe an hour earlier. I kept hiking. But something started bothering me. There were no side trails. No campsites. No places they could have turned off. And despite covering miles of trail, I never caught up to them. By midday, the woods felt wrong in a way I can't properly explain. Not dangerous. Not hostile. Just aware. Like something in the forest knew exactly where I was. That afternoon, I passed an old lane to shelter near mile marker 14. and hanging from one of the support beams was a dark green jacket. Perfectly placed. Not tossed aside. Not forgotten carelessly. Hung neatly from a nail like someone had removed it carefully and intended to return any minute. But there was nothing else there.
No backpack.
No food wrappers.
No sleeping gear. No footprints.
Just the jacket swaying gently in the cold wind. I checked the pockets. Empty. Then I noticed something that made my stomach tighten. The collar label had been cut out cleanly with something sharp. Not ripped. Removed. Like someone intentionally erased the owner's identity. That night I camped far off trail hidden behind thick rhododendron. No fire. No light.
No noise.
I ate cold food in darkness and listened to the woods breathe around me. Around 1 o'clock in the morning, the voices came back. Same two people. Same quiet conversation. But this time I realized something horrifying. They weren't in the same location. They were the same distance away. No matter where I moved, they stayed perfectly beyond reach. Close enough to hear. Too far to see. As if something out there was pacing me deliberately through the forest. I sat awake the entire night gripping an open knife across my knee, staring through the tent mesh into darkness that suddenly felt endless. When dawn finally came, I packed without breakfast and hiked out faster than I want to admit. At the trailhead, I sat inside my truck shaking with the engine running for nearly 20 minutes before I could drive. Months later, I returned with a friend named Terrence. Busy weekend. Plenty of hikers. Daylight everywhere. The woods felt normal again. Until we reached the shelter. I stared at the support beam where the jacket had hung. There was no nail.
No ole.
No scar in the wood. No sign anything had ever been attached there at all. The beam looked untouched, old, seamless. Terrence asked if I'd been there before. I told him yes. But I couldn't stop staring at that wood. Because I know what I saw. I remember the jacket. I remember touching it. I remember the cut collar beneath my fingers. And yet somehow, there was no trace any of it had ever existed. I still hike that trail. I've thought about posting those photographs more times than I can count. But every time I come close, I stop. Because those tents contained real people's belongings. Real lives. And if those people are still out there somewhere, maybe they deserve privacy more than they deserve to become another internet mystery. Or maybe they were never meant to be found at all. And honestly, I still don't know which possibility scares me more. Before I tell you what happened, you need to understand the kind of person I am. My name is Rex Halverson. I'm 44 years old, and I work as a commercial diver. Most of my career has been spent inside places human beings were never meant to survive. Collapsed shipwrecks. Oil platforms miles offshore. Black water cold enough to stop your heart in minutes if one piece of equipment fails. In my line of work, imagination gets people killed. You survive by identifying what's real and reacting to it correctly. Nothing else matters. That's why what happened to me on the Finger Lakes Trail still bothers me years later, because it forced me to question whether reality is always as stable as I thought it was. It started on day 2. At first, it was just a sound. Footsteps behind me. Slow. Consistent. Measured. The soft compression of boots on dirt and leaves. Most people wouldn't notice something like that in the woods. I did. My job trained me to isolate sound patterns in chaotic environments. I can tell the difference between metal strain and water pressure through inches of steel underwater. And these footsteps were real. I stopped walking. The footsteps stopped instantly. I started again. 20 seconds later, they returned. Same pace. Same distance behind me. I tested it 3 times. Every single time, the sound mirrored my movements perfectly. Finally, I stepped off the trail into thick brush and waited silently for nearly 8 minutes. Nobody passed.